Hi, my name is Omar Sacirby, and I'm a reporter with Marijuana Business Daily and your host for today's webinar about how to add or integrate a delivery service to your cannabis business. To tell us how to do it, we have Brandon Wiegand, Regional General Manager of The+Source dispensaries in Nevada. Brandon raised a team of roughly 10 delivery drivers in about a weekend, and I believe that team has expanded since then. Brandon, thank you for being with us.
No, my pleasure, Omar. Thank you.
Terrific. Well, to begin with, tell us a little bit about what kind of delivery model you had before the COVID situation and what you were using.
Yeah, so previously we had been using a contractor called Blackbird, partner for a number of different dispensaries in the industry that handled our delivery options for the dispensary. So they offered next day delivery. They offered menu integration. That was something we had adopted pretty early on. We didn't see a lot of demand for deliveries when we initially implemented it, but over time that grew. And prior to COVID, we were doing, on a good week, I'd say is right about 10% of our sales would come through Blackbird deliveries, and those tended to be, accretive to the business. They were in addition to sales that we were doing anyway, so they didn't seem to displace, in-store or online pickup order sales. And we used them, and even going into COVID, we relied on them heavily until we were forced to do delivery only, and that's when the wheels started to fall off of Blackbird. I mean, they had, and no fault to Blackbird at all. I mean, they had a tsunami of demand coming their way that happened very quickly, and the entire industry had to react to that overnight. So that was really the inflection point that required us to say, if we're going to want to survive. I don't think anybody thrived through COVID in Nevada, but if we wanted to survive and at least add to and incrementally improve the business, we were going to have to take delivery in-house.
Mm-hmm. And tell us a little bit, take us back to that week when things were moving at a rapid pace. Different types of decisions were coming down from the governor's office, I think from local authority as well. You had to speak with your supervisors. Take us through that week, what was happening and how you all had to react to what was happening.
Yeah, so it was very interesting. It was a period of time. It was probably more than the first couple of weeks, but we had that initial run up. The fear of running out of supplies, the fear of, I think it was also the unknown of not being told whether the dispensary is going to be allowed to stay open or closed. We had some of that fear set in where we saw a rush on the dispensaries, had a lot of product, had a lot of product sales, had a lot of people. Our average daily sales increased pretty substantially, which was indicative of customers stocking up. Mm-hmm. So we went from this rush. We had orders from the governor, and again, this feels like decades ago at this point, but we had orders from the governor to implement social distancing norms, to make sure our customers are adhering to those norms. We went through a process of really kind of revamping the dispensary, retraining our team, making sure we were implementing these guidelines, making sure we were putting in the protocols, and then trying to train our customers to adhere to those guidelines. And right when we felt like we got our feet under us, had implemented a few like order reservation systems. So we were having customers come to the dispensary, they could check in, we'd send them back to their car, and we'd text them to come back in. Mm-hmm. We got everything smoothed out, and then we got the order from the governor that says, all right, no more in-store sales, no more pickup sales, you guys are delivery only. Wow. And so that was, I think, delivered on a Wednesday or a Thursday. We wrote SOPs. And for us, we had been considering taking delivery in-house. I think we saw an opportunity there. We didn't know how large it was. We had seen a few other dispensaries attempt to do it on their own and then reel back from that. So it was questionable on whether it was going to be something that would be functional and be something that we could sustain and hold on to. But this really forced us to implement some of the measures we had been looking at. So,
and if I could ask you just to interrupt for a moment, Brandon,
yeah.
You mentioned that you guys had considered delivery on some earlier occasions. Can you mention one or two of some of the reasons why you felt like it wasn't a good decision to go delivery at that time before you were kind of forced into it?
Yeah, so there are few things to understand. There was emergency orders put in place that allowed us to get drivers in their own vehicles with minimal changes to those vehicles. Whereas prior to that, there was more requirements. We had to do an in-person inspection. I believe the requirements previously required a video camera and a few other measures that were relaxed during the emergency regulations. And so we're still operating under those emergency regulations. Those are extended. They were initially for 60 days. Those were extended for another 60 days. So it looks like we'll at least have the ability to operate this way through the end of July. But those were some of the reasons we looked at it. We said, all right.
Yeah. Red tape, it sounds like. It sounds like red tape. Sounds like red tape was the big obstacle before.
More requirements. I wouldn't say it was the only obstacle. The other was, is the juice going to be worth the squeeze? How much are we going to pay in insurance? We were actually at that time, we were looking at purchasing our own vehicles. So there would be company insured vehicles that we could run out. There was a CapEx, expense that we were considering there. And with the emergency regs, that changed some of the math we were doing. And it was also, we were in a corner. I mean, it was literally the only way for us to generate revenue.
Yeah.
That it was like, okay, well, there's a compelling reason to do this. Let's go ahead and knock it out. I mean, we've learned a lot over the last, 30 to 60 days on what works, what doesn't work. We implemented higher purchase limits because we were really two things. One, we wanted people to stock up, right? We didn't want them to get in the habit of ordering every few days and using delivery as a service, as if they were just visiting the dispensary.
Yeah.
But we wanted to force people to bulk, their orders because that was more efficient for us to operate. And we were also constrained with the amount of team members we had to do these deliveries. So, we were able to implement a higher ADS that customers accepted, given the circumstances. That was something that was different than we were looking at previously. Our ADS had been a lot lower for delivery orders. But like I said, there was a few benefits to having explored it before where we hit the ground running. We already knew, there was some software that we knew we wanted to implement. We had, I think, discovered early on this is going to be a very difficult process to implement without the assistance of technology. If we're trying to do this manually, it's going to be a fool's errand. So we had some technology already identified, and we had already given thought to like how would that team be structured, how would we process orders. We had already built our system in a way that allowed orders to come in, and it was really, we looked at it as an on-ramp. How do we get orders into our point of sale system, and then how do we deliver on those orders, whether it's to a customer at the window, to a customer for a pickup order, to a curbside order, or delivery.
Got it. Interesting. Okay. And when it comes to actually the recruiting the drivers, did you recruit mainly from in-house? Did you have to go outside of the source to find drivers?
Yeah, we went exclusively in-house. We were, during the COVID situation, we ended up furloughing almost half of our team. And that happened after delivery is implemented, after we kind of saw where we were headed. We had a significant impact on the business that required us to right-size the business. But part of my message to the team was I'm looking for volunteers. You don't have to, we weren't looking for just our tellers or individuals who've been used to doing this. It was anybody in the company who has a vehicle and is willing to drive and do deliveries. But let's get you added. And we built a system pretty quickly to collect the information that was required by the state, put it in a format that was easy for the state to approve. And we did that very quickly. I mean, we got the governor's directive. We started working on our SOPs, built a system to accept, our driver volunteers and get all of their information, and then had that system built so that we could send those over to the state for rapid approval. And that first week, and I believe we got like 12 to 14 drivers almost immediately, and then we ended up with I think a high water mark, probably around 25 to 30 drivers. It was under 30, but more than 25 that were registered and able to drive. Now, we didn't use all of those, but we had the capacity there to flex as it was needed. And like I said, it was really a call out to our team. One, I think we've done an excellent job building, a rock star team. We have a very high level of trust within our organization. And so I think our team understood, hey, this is a call to action. Company needs us. They've always been there for us. They'll be there for us as well. We're in this together. And part of my message too is just basically the facts are, look, the more delivery drivers they have, the more jobs we'll be able to protect. So that is the only way we're going to be able to conduct business. It is our bottleneck. And and the more delivery drivers I have, that means the more people I'm going to need to package product. It means I'm going to need more people in the vault. I need more of the store teams to help support those delivery drivers. And so I think our team, heeded that call to action, understood the position we were in, and we had a lot of team members step up to the plate in a big way. That was very much appreciated. It certainly helped us to survive, that period of time.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to the time frame, if I recall correctly, the governor's directive came down on a Wednesday, Thursday, maybe
Yep.
on a Friday. You started recruiting drivers Thursday or Friday.
Yep.
The folks from the governor's office or from the regulatory offices were working through the weekend.
Yeah, they were working late night through the weekend. We were submitting. I had started to solicit and collect, driver applications with all their information. We started to send those over. I was not expecting to see anything until Monday the following week. I was pleasantly surprised when I think we submitted most of those Friday afternoon, and I started receiving approval Saturday morning, and those trickled out through the rest of the weekend. So, the Department of Taxation and Cannabis Compliance Commission were partners through all this. I mean, they understood the position we were in. They stepped up to the plate. They built their systems and told their team to be on the clock and on the call and ready to assist us. And that was much appreciated as well. It's, we got very quick information, had to react to it very quickly. And it's nice when your regulatory partner is there to help and assist through that.
Yeah. So you started, just to make sure I heard this correctly, you started submitting applications on Friday afternoon, got the approvals on the weekend, and you had drivers on the road on Monday.
Yep.
Amazing.
Yeah, we had, and that was really our delay is we had, you mentioned on insurance, that was part of our challenge was we required all of our drivers to have their own insurance policy, but then we purchased a company insurance policy that while they were on the clock, that covered them as well. Fortunately, there's only one incident that we had, relatively minor fender bender incident, but that was important for us. Again, I think the right thing to do for our team is make sure that you're covering the liabilities and the risks that they're taking on behalf of the company. So our delay, I mean, we could have had drivers on earlier if we had that policy in place, but it took until Monday to get that policy in place. We had it in there Monday morning, and we hit the ground running. I think it was 10 a.m. Monday morning with delivery.
Wow. Got it. And and tell us a little bit about that insurance policy. That's covering, I'm sorry, the liability for drivers.
Yep. Yeah. So vehicle liability insurance purchased by the company on behalf of the drivers. All those drivers had to be approved, had to do their background checks for insurance as well. But we had a blanket policy that covered all of our delivery drivers while they're on the clock.
Got it. And any estimate on how much that cost, or
if I remember correctly, it was around $100 per employee per month.
Okay.
So that scale, it's definitely an expense, but again, when it's the only way the only way you're allowed to operate, it's one that you're going to take on.
Yeah. And how about training? Did you have to give the drivers any special training, whether it be in terms of just, safety and security or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have pretty well written, well scoped out security SOPs. We had already given some thought, and we had delivery built into our SOPs as far as what the state requires. We went through and revamped and reviewed those. We also went through and built SOPs for this delivery process, given the changes in the circumstances, and then we trained all of our team on those delivery protocols as well. We're very fortunate to have one of our team members who had worked with a dispensary during the medical only days in Nevada, doing deliveries. And so was well versed. We started off with a pretty manual process. And then as we got our technology platform up and running, we were able to transition over. We're very fortunate to have a team member who had already done deliveries in the medical days, was familiar with it, stepped up to the plate, worked with us on developing the SOPs. And then we did a training video over that weekend so we can get that out to all of our team members, knowing there's, folks that had never done a delivery in their life. And getting them tasked with, how are we doing this? What's the expectations of the protocols? How do we do it in a clean, efficient manner? And then how do we do it with all the requirements under COVID? So what are your PPE protocols? Putting on gloves before every delivery, making sure we're wearing face masks on deliveries. Just as far as going through the process of what's the efficient way to get out of the vehicle, grab we have to keep all of our product locked in a separate lockbox in the vehicle. How do you get that? How do you get your paperwork in order? And then how do you get your transaction times down the door? Because delivery is a very expensive way to operate. It's probably the most expensive way to transact with a customer. And anything we can do to save time, make that smooth, fast, more efficient is going to help us, one, stay profitable, but then also, make that experience positive for the customer. Nobody wants to go through a 5 to 10 minute drill each time we show up to do a delivery. And we've gotten that down to, less than 5 minutes. We'd show up,
Wow.
have a product, transact, and then move on.
Yeah, yeah. And did you mentioned special lockbox for a product that goes with the car, and did you have to buy special equipment, like those lock boxes, or perhaps GPS systems or other things for the drivers?
Yeah, there wasn't an issue with GPS systems. There was no tracking device, although with the technology platform we implemented it uses their cell phone essentially as a tracking device. So in real time, we can monitor their routes. But as far as what we purchased, again, when we got the governor's directive, one of my counterparts at our home office jumped online, started to buy lock boxes from every Home Depot and Lowe's that we could get in touch with, put those on reservation. We started picking them up the next day. So we purchased an abundance of lock boxes, cables, locks. That was kind of the initial upfront expense that we needed to support our team. We got those in place pretty quickly, standardized them, and then we started to get into the process of identifying those boxes so we were efficient. So we used a numbering lettering system so that we knew this order is going into this box, which is assigned to this driver. And that's something that, over time we got much better, faster, more efficient at is, how are we operating? How are we making sure that when drivers come back from deliveries, we're turning them around with more deliveries immediately? It got us very quick and efficient at turning our drivers around and making sure we were utilizing our time as efficiently as possible.
And what were some of the things that you guys were learning during this delivery rollout? You mentioned, for example, getting transaction times down and getting drivers back out the door quickly. What were sort of the tip-offs, and what were some of the things that you guys did to make that happen?
Well, one thing I'd say, anybody who's considering doing delivery, anybody who's considering adopting or implementing a new process, I'd make sure you have customer feedback built into that process. So once we got our technology platform implemented, had a bounce back so that when we completed that delivery, our customers would get a response from us basically saying, hey, thank you for shopping with The+Source. Would you take a minute and let us know how we did? Is there anything we can do to improve? That was a gold mine for us, because customers will tell you exactly what's working, what's not working. And you can see, on any given day, I could tell you if we were doing a good job or a bad job, because we were getting feedback, and I could help hone in the team on, hey, we're having issues with incorrect product being delivered. So what are we doing to make sure that the product going out the door is accurate? Let's make sure we're double checking that. We were having issues we'd run promos and people would forget to put the promo product in. So we were able to very quickly discover where are our challenges through customer feedback, and then react to that and, adopt either new practices, put in new procedures, just remind the team that, hey, slow down to speed up. There's boxes that we want to check as we go through this process. So we make sure that the delivery experience was positive for the customer. And like I said, there's a number of things we uncovered through that, but it was 100% customer feedback that we relied on to figure out, how is our process working? Are we improving? Are we regressing? Are we having more issues? Are we having fewer issues? That was literally the tempo. Is every day I was just paying attention to what our customers telling us, and then working with the team on how do we resolve these.
And was there a specific tip that you remember coming in from a customer, or maybe a whole bunch of specific items that were coming in that a lot of customers were echoing that prompted some kind of a change from you guys?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say there's any one. I don't think any, one piece of feedback is just one data point. But when I start seeing multiple things, so, the promo products being missed was one that, how do we get into a habit of making sure that we're getting these? Medical customers receive a discount from us. Sometimes those would be missed. We implemented a lot of new systems very quickly. And we were also very upfront with our customers that, like, hey, please be patient with us. Please be empathetic. We're all learning in this experience together. And I think having that conversation with our customers is very helpful as well. Spending time just addressing head on what are the challenges we're dealing with, and asking for their patience and understanding as we navigate those. I actually had spent early on when we started doing delivery, I spent a day calling all the customers that had issues and just said, talk to me about your experience. What worked, what didn't work, what did you like, what didn't you like? That was probably the most valuable day I spent, because that primary feedback from a customer telling you, here's what I liked. Your ordering system was clean. I loved having, the system we installed included text updates to customers. So they would get a notification when their delivery was out, and it would give them a predicted ETA. And then they could track that in real time and see if it had changed. And that was very much appreciated. By and large, like, our biggest challenge was just, errors. We forgot product. We put in the wrong product. We did something, that at the end of the day is pretty easy to solve. It's really just having the conversation with the customer, making sure that you acknowledge you made a mistake, and then what do you do to resolve it? So some of those were, hey, we'll send out, replacement product free of cost. We'll put a credit on your account. Some of them we had an issue with, customers were purchasing in such volume that they had hit their purchase maxes, and we wanted to give them the free product but couldn't because they had exceeded the transaction limit. So that forced us to get creative with, well, we'll put a free eighth on your account because you've earned it. So it was just, I think for us, the key was through this entire process, being very honest up front about what we're going through. We're not perfect, but we're working on getting there. Having that conversation, open dialogue with the customers, and then just always making sure they understand we're going to take care of them. We're not going to be perfect. We will screw up, but at the end of the day, we're going to make it right. And I think our customers have come to expect and know that we're always going to do that for them.
Got it. And how large did your delivery team eventually get that was on the road? I mean, I think you mentioned you've hired about 25 or 30 drivers, but not all.
Yeah, I think we had a total of 27 drivers approved. Some of those were backup. Like, I was, qualified as a driver. Some of our GMs were as well. I spent a couple days on the road when we needed it. But by and large, I think we had, it was like 6 to 8 drivers at each dispensary that were pretty much our regular rotation. And so, like I said, 6 to 8 drivers at the dispensary handled, they were doing, 4 to 5 routes a day. Each one of those routes would have anywhere from, 5 on the low end up to 12 to 13 different deliveries. Again, that was all completely dependent on what's their payload. We have delivery limitations, so we can deliver no more than 5 ounces of product. However, that's mixed up. So for some drivers, that was 5 deliveries. For other drivers, that could have been 15 deliveries, depending on what they're doing. But that was another big part is, having a technology system that supports that. We were able to put all of our deliveries into a queue and then use the technology to figure out, how do we not exceed our delivery limits? How do we make sure that the right drivers have the right amount of product in the right areas of town? We completely relied on technology to solve that problem for us. So we weren't sitting there trying to figure out, all right, I've got 6 drivers, I've got all these deliveries, how do we do this? So, technology is real critical on delivery, especially. I mean, that is choosing the right technology vendor and having the right platform in place to help support your operation. There's no way we would have been able to do this on our own.
Yeah. And can you say who your vendor?
Yeah, we use, by and large, probably the most well known in the cannabis space is OnFleet. So great technology platform. It's an Uber-like experience. If you've ever used Uber Eats, where it communicates, does the predictive ETA, tells them when they're arriving. We ended up implementing before it's probably 2 weeks ago, contactless signatures. So again, having a technology partner that was looking at the COVID situation and looking at their platform, going, how do we improve, and what measures do we implement? So contactless signature, having customers show up, they're signing for the document instead of having to hand them a phone. We send them a link that basically says sign for your document, and it captures it when they send it.
Interesting.
So there's creative stuff like that. We implemented debit card transactions. So we put in payment processing so that, accomplishes 2 things. 1, less contact with customers. And then 2, it also requires less cash that our drivers carry. So those solutions, again, it was, I think the entire industry and all of our partners came together to look at, how do we improve and how do we make this experience as seamless as possible, given the situation we're all dealing with.
Yeah. And now that we are, we've, places like yours have been at this for a couple of months now, and we don't know how long this COVID situation is going to last, but however long it does last, or whenever it does And do you envision the do you envision delivery services remaining a strong component of your business?
Yeah, I think if the situation stays the way it is now, where it is easier for me to get drivers on the road, get them approved, I think yes. If coming out of this, we start to implement more restrictive measures, then I think it's going to depend. I think I could say conclusively our customer base loves it. I mean, I have a lot of customers who, even as we've offered curbside and gone back to in-store sales, we've seen deliveries decrease, but they've stayed higher than they were previously. So we have a lot of customers like this. I won't order another way again. I love delivery. It's convenient. It's easy. You bring it to me. It's great. The, I think that is probably the $1 million question is like, what does this look like coming out the other side? Curbside would be another one. I'd say I think our customers absolutely love it. It took a lot of petitioning, a lot of conversation, a lot of discussion to get us to the point where the state was willing to take on curbside. But I think that it's been very successful. Customers love it. Our team likes it. It's a very efficient way for us to operate. So I think that, to answer the question is it depends. If it stays similar to the way it is now, I think absolutely it stays a big part of the business. I think we continue to explore it and we continue to look at ways to improve the process and make it better for our customers. I love the idea of delivery, and I think a lot of our customers do too. Same thing with curbside. So if it changes significantly, though, it's going to change the economics, that we look at, and then we're just going to have to adjust accordingly.
Okay, all right. Brandon, I think that's about it, but I really appreciate your insights. I'm sure they'll be of great use to our audience. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks, Omar.
All right, have a great rest of the week.
You too. Take care.
Bye now.